Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Will's Weekly Wonders. This week it's a cricket special. With the 2020 World Cup currently taking place in Australia, I thought there's no better time than to combine more of my sporting passions with Alteryx and see what we could do. I've also thought the added challenge of wearing cricket gloves to see how much of a workflow we can get through. So in this example, I was able to go and get some data from my good friends at CricSheets, where they're able to extract all of the information for every 2020 game of all time, and with an incredible level of detail. So for instance, here we've got one file, one particular game. There's 1,600 records on the players, the umpires, and ball-by-ball action. Now, in this case, I've got 2,300 games to go through and 1,000 records in each of them, which normally would make it pretty hard to work out what I want to do in the analysis I want to perform. Fortunately for me, I've used our cricket cleanup macro that was just being created to start extracting out some of the data. We've split this into two categories. We've got one on the teams overall, who they were playing, the results, how much they won by, the different match IDs, and then going into all the player information, so all of the games that they've been a part of, what the result were any of them player of the match, and so on. Now, the first bit to focus on was some of the team stats. So looking at the most successful 2020 teams of all time, by win percentage, it's Afghanistan, followed by India, England languishing a little bit down in 7th place there. Potentially looking at the Scared of Cricket Awards, introduced today after Australia conveniently forecast some rains. They didn't have to play England with a no result, but it's actually the West Indies with 7.5% of their games not going ahead. The next part was to focus on head-to-head records, looking at teams that are often playing each other, how frequently they're winning. Afghanistan, 6 times they played Scotland and they've won every single one of them. Similar for Nepal against Malaysia, New Zealand, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Bangladesh. Interestingly, Pakistan against Zimbabwe, they've only lost once before in the previous 16 encounters, but this week lost to them again. If we look at England, some of their 100% against Afghanistan, Zimbabwe, Bangladesh, who they're not playing that frequently. Of the bigger nations, it's Sri Lanka and Pakistan, who they tend to be. Towards the bottom, though, they've never beaten the Netherlands or Ireland, and this week, again, the Irish thwarted them in a rain sport contest. Now, with cricket, there's a huge element on whether you'll bat first, bowl first, and ultimately then who will win the toss. So in this, we wanted to pull out some analysis on who had the best coin flippers amongst each of the teams. It's Hong Kong, 60% of the time they're winning the toss, providing them a huge advantage and disproving that coin flipping 50% probability down towards the bottom, and Scotland not very good at coin tossing. Not only is it important who's winning the toss, but what they prefer to do. Afghanistan, 75% of the time they win the toss, they're batting, versus India, 75% of the time they're winning, they'd actually prefer to field. Now, not just focusing on the teams, we want to focus on the players as well. Looking at all time, who are those that have been most capped? Rohit Sharma, 142 games, incredible, but a large number of them with over 100 games, some of them still playing today in the tournaments. Virat Kohli leading the Indians, and they look pretty good. Then focusing on the players that have the best win percentage, Uganda, winning a lot of their games, quite a few qualifiers, but some of these players that play frequently for them appearing across that list. Then also wanted to see the players that when they are playing, how frequently they're getting man of the match performances. Nakrani of Uganda, 22% of the time he plays, he gets man of the match. Pretty good going, or when they win. Sanit Jayasuriya, 6 times he's been player of the match at 20%. We're then able to filter that down just on the 2020 World Cup, see how experience can factor into their performance. A lot of these teams that might play in some of the qualifier games, but featuring quite heavily as we go down to some of the Kiwis, often featuring at the latter ends of tournaments. Then also seeing their particular win rates. Mitch Marsh, a great example for the Australians. He's played 6 games for them all time, and he's won every single one of them, winning player of the match 1 time. Finally, then just looking at all of those players that most frequently win player of the matches or their player of the match percentage, and a few standout names here. Now, all of this information can become incredibly useful in not only understanding more about your opponents, what you can do with that data, but actually is a great showcase of how Alteryx can transfer unstructured and unusable data into nicely formatted information. Now, I'm going to leave it up to 10cc to end this and to sum up all of my feelings nicely. Enjoy your weekends. Cheers.